Yeah, welcome to Shards and Shenanigans.
Welcome back. Super excited. We're reading chapter 4 of Mistborn. So much information to cover in this episode. Hopefully it doesn't go for like 4 hours. I want to talk to you for 4 hours, but I don't think our listeners want to hear us for 4 hours. So
I hope it does. I hope it does. I'm down to go there. Let's do it.
We'll try to condense it as best as we can. But jumping right into it. So starting with the snack, the little appetizer here before the main entree. So we're here again. I can't really tell who we're talking, like who's given this narrative. Like obviously there's no names, but talking about going to the Highlands of Terrace. Which we'll talk about a little later in this chapter, I think. And so I would like to just remind me to circle back.
All right, we'll circle back to Terrace.
Just like in all corporate meetings, we're going to circle back.
Exactly.
But so during this, they talk about the next stage of my quest, and so like whose quest? Like, is it a self-imposed quest? Like I'm on a quest, or like is it MMO, talk to the shopkeeper who's sending you on a what kind of quest are we?
Is this? Yeah, right. Good point.
So, and then talking about just how like our normal attendance won't work. That we need to hire some terrace packmen to carry our gear. Yeah. So when they're talking about attendance, I don't think Kelsier would talk about his, like, anybody that is helping him in that kind of way. It sounds very noble and like, someone who's part of the nobility. So it makes me feel like it's not him necessarily, but we'll see.
Right. All right. So we're thinking it's not Kelsier in the snack. I like it.
Yeah. So jumping into the main meal, chapter 4. So we're still in the lair, Cayman's lair, and all of the henchmen, part of the crew, are allowed back inside, but prior to the meeting that Kelsier's planning. And so everyone's kind of sitting around. We get introduced to a few new characters here that are part of the crew. First one being Diston, who's one of Cayman's head pointmen. Don't really know what that means. If pointman is just a term for like someone who's kind of a leader in the group, or I'm not sure there, but do love the fact
term.
that and I do love the fact that he's missing a hand. Always love to see it.
Right.
And so it's interesting because they're talking about like what's this job that Kelsier has planned, and they're talking about how he doesn't do small jobs, and so obviously he is known not only to people like we talked about last episode, like he's known as the survivor of Hathsin. People know him by name and can recognize him by the scars on his arms.
Right.
But they also know like the kinds of jobs that he's doing, which we'll touch base on here. We'll get some more details as the chapter progresses. But so Vin's hanging out. She's kind of listening to all this. She's still reminiscing about all the things that Reen's told her about how you can't trust anybody, and kind of thinking about Ulif and how he fucked her over immediately, and how he's just kind of like, not even like sweating it. It's just kind of like, yep, that's what we do, and like everyone's just kind of back to normal, and so it's kind of interesting. But another new character as everyone's sitting around talking about this, another new character we get introduced to is Harmon. A scraggly bearded burglar. So he refers to Kelsier as the survivor, which obviously we know the survivor of Hathsin. So just another, I think, phrase or way to kind of refer to him that I don't know if we've seen before. But they're talking about how he hasn't done any jobs lately. And Ulif then jumps in as like, is this the first one since he escaped the pits? And so clearly these guys haven't seen him since he left the pits. Or
nice.
At least haven't heard of anything going on with him.
Yeah, these guys haven't. Yeah, right.
So which that right. And so it tends to make you believe that they knew him maybe before he went to the pits and that he was in this kind of business beforehand.
Nailed it. Yeah, exactly.
So they're just kind of hitting Vin up with questions of like, hey, what's going on? Like, do you know anything about this? She's all still bruised up and, kind of recovering from the beating she just took from Cayman. And so they're kind of questioning why Kelsier picked Vin as a Twixt, which we then learn a Twixt is like the go-between that works with like two crews. In this case, we're talking about kind of a more skillful crew or more special crew in the underground, in Luthadil's underground, which is kind of full of Allomancers, and then the other side, which is kind of the low-level Caymans, people who don't
the grunts
necessarily have it. Yeah, the lower level people, which we get into later. Of Kelsier has some words for them, or some things that he calls them. That's kind of interesting. But she's kind of just they're wondering why he chose her as that, or at least they're assuming that's what he chose her as, and. So we kind of jump forward a little bit. She's not kind of giving them a response. And then she is kind of mulling over everything that's happening. And she's thinking about Kelsier and Doxson and their relationship and how they actually seem to trust each other. And she's super skeptical about it. She's like, is this a front? Are they, is this actually something? Or is this actually a real kind of a change from what she knows, where they like don't worry about betraying each other. So she's kind of having a hard time coming to terms with what she's seen so far from them. Jump into meeting another character. I haven't listened to this chapter. I read this chapter.
Nice.
So I don't know how to pronounce this, but
go for it.
Red or Hared.
Where is Hared? Tell me more.
Yeah, so he's just another like thug in the in Cayman's
part of Cayman's crew. Okay, yeah,
all right. Yeah, it's HRUD,
awesome.
And so he's jumping in and just saying like, it's been 2 years, which I'm assuming they mean like 2 years since he escaped. Yeah. So I think he's saying it's 2 years since Kelsier escaped the pits, which I thought in another chapter we had seen that it might have been 3 years, but maybe I'm misremembering that.
Possibly people
or two different accounts, right?
Differently.
Sure. So he's like, yeah, Kelsier must have spent this entire time planning for this job. Must be a big job. So then they're asking Vin again, Vin starts asking the group, like, tell me about Kelsier. And they say they didn't talk about him down south. So I think we're getting a little tidbit of where Vin's from. Which I don't know if we've had that before either. Down south somewhere.
Another mention of down south in an earlier chapter, but not much more than that. It's been down south like twice, so you're onto it.
Okay, cool. So they're kind of explaining that he was the best crew leader in all of Luthadel, kind of a legend, and even among Mistines, that he was kind of a legend. He's robbed all of the great houses, the wealthiest houses in the city, and that someone basically betrayed him. And then Vin's like, yes, I know. Like, that's my whole shtick.
Everybody gets betrayed.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Shit.
And so no one kind of really seems to know exactly what's going on or like how it happened. Some people are like, oh, the Lord Ruler himself caught Kelsier. And then they say they sent him and his wife to the pits of Hathsin. Yeah. He escaped. His wife didn't.
Yeah, his wife.
And so, then they're kind of just discussing the scars. And everyone has different theories of how he got the scars. Some say he's fighting and killing Inquisitors. Some say he's climbing out of from the pits, these sheer rocks, and like cutting up his arms, fighting monsters, all kinds of stuff. My favorite is reaching into the mouth of one of the monsters that guards the pits and strangles it from the inside. And they're like, how do you strangle something from the inside? So pretty pretty good there. I like that a lot.
Crew talk.
Yeah, it's good. And definitely some banter. And there's some fun stuff, and I think we'll get to it here later, that I really enjoyed some like humor here. So, they kind of just say, this guy's not natural, like something happened to him while he's in the pits, and that he wasn't an Alamancer before, which is an interesting tidbit. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what they're saying here, and that he entered the pits as a regular Ska, and now, he's a Mistine or Mistborn, or and they're doubting whether he's even human anymore.
Yeah,
nice. So kind of cool, yeah. And they talk about how he's been out in the mists a lot. And they're like, yeah, well, we've all been out in the mists. And they say, yeah, but he's been out in the mists outside of the city.
Right.
It's different. And that there's mist wraiths. Yeah, different mists.
Oh, the mist wraiths. I love it.
So that's just interesting. So they also say they've heard of him doing things, only things that only they can do. And that just like they is italicized here. And then it says the ones that come out at night. And so I was like, what is that? Is that just mist wraiths or what? Like, who knows? Very up in the air.
Yeah,
open-ended.
Ominous. Yeah.
But then they jump in Harmon to Mistborn. So maybe that's what he's referencing. And Vin's saying, oh, I've heard this term before. And basically, it's said that the Mistborn were like heralds of the mists, and that they've got the powers from the Great Ruler, the Lord Ruler, and that only some information we already know here, that only high noblemen can be Mistborn. But they've been said to be secret sect of assassins who serve the Lord Ruler, and they only go out at night.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So we've got vampire. Mistborn assassins. It sounds like here.
So it's pretty far-fetched.
Yeah. And I think so far we're seeing that no one really knows anything. Like it's all just legends and rumors and campfire tales that everyone's been telling,
But I love the this perspective from the farmlands and the rural areas to the city. Everybody's got a different story. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
I love it.
It's good. We're doing good. So, so Finn kind of talks about she kind of has this I would call it like this awakening where she's like, her old goal was just like staying alive, and she calls that uninspired, and now she's realizing there's more she could be doing, and that she originally was kind of beholden to Reen and to Cayman, and that she's also going to be beholden to Kelsier. But that's only going to be until she can get her freedom.
Nice.
So she's definitely having a little bit of change of character about who she is and what she wants. And so we're starting to see those changes in her. Which is, we don't even know anything about her really. So, but it's good to see her kind of obviously.
It seems like what we do know is like rough, like not super fortunate. Not she doesn't have a very good outlook on it. It seems either, at least in terms of like blatant positivity.
Right. Oh, for sure. So we are, like Milev, the new crew leader. He was, kind of took over for Cayman. He's like, all right, it's time for everybody to get out, kicks everybody out. And then shortly thereafter, Kelsier's friends start to show up. So we get the first two, which is Breeze and Ham walk in. You're so excited.
I love these guys. Yeah, they're fun.
And so, they're kind of talking to each other like they're longtime friends as they come in. And so Vin immediately starts to feel herself liking the well-dressed, articulate man. And so, obviously, as she would call it, some luck is, in my opinion, being used here.
She feels like there's some luck involved. All right, nice. Yeah, I like it.
Well, I don't know if not here yet. She gets there, but here I'm feeling like it's involved because she finds herself liking this guy,
right?
And she doesn't realize it yet.
Nice.
What's actually going on.
I like it.
So,
The
basically he's like, yeah, I want to, like, I need some refreshments. And she's immediately like, let me get you something to drink, and hops to her feet and runs to the bar. Just pouring her wine. And so Ham's like, hey, Breeze, why don't you stop being a fucking dick? It's pretty funny. And he's like, oh, very well. It kind of sighs, and then, Ven pauses pouring the wine and realizes, like, what am I even doing? And then realizes, based on Ham saying, Breeze, you can't just be pushing people around, that, hey, he used luck on me.
Right.
So this time's different, though. So when Kelsier did it, and tried to manipulate her, she felt it. She could feel the touch on her, and she had been able to, like, resist that. And that this time, she hadn't really even realized what she was doing, or that she was being affected. So
this guy's got another level.
Yeah, he's skilled for sure. So she's like, oh, like, you're Mistborn, and they're like, no, like, we're not Mistborn. The only Mistborn you're ever gonna meet is, Kelsier. That we're just Mistings. And so they kind of discuss more as I'm going through my book here. But as you can see, I've got the paperback and pages are starting to fall out of it. But that's okay. That's all right. Don't need that page anyway.
That's right. Soldier down. We passed it.
Yeah. So it's just kind of some more back and forth between Breeze and Ham. They kind of do... kind of just go back and forth. And we learn that Ham is a thug. That means he burns pewter. So by doing that, he can make himself stronger. And he basically hits things. He's just like the muscle of the group. Like, my mind goes to like the Fantastic Four, the Thing, like, or maybe the Hulk. I don't know.
All right, nice. Yeah, no, definitely. Not a bad idea. But yeah, Ham's great. I'm a big fan. Ham and Breeze.
And we obviously know that Breeze is using something similar to luck, or what Ven would call luck. And I can't remember. Have we talked about what metal that is yet that you would use to, like, persuade someone, or is that? Would that be like tin, or I don't know? I can't remember.
So tin is going to increase your senses. We may or may not have talked about what metal it is. We can circle back. I know what metal it is, right. But yeah, we'll have to look back in the archives.
Okay. Cool.
I don't think we have yet, but it is something that Vin would have got in that vial.
Right. 'Cause she's got more of it inside of her.
So if we can get to there, she did get some from that vial, like, and then she was burning it and learning about it with Kelsey.
Yeah, I just can't remember exactly what that was.
I'm on it. I'm looking too. we can find it.
So it says 2 of the 8 basic elementic metals are in the vial. But I don't know if they say.
All right, then I won't say. But we will learn.
Okay.
We will learn.
All right.
I think, it is a metal name that you will recognize.
Okay.
And
so we don't.
Yeah, it is some of the basic metals.
So I don't know if I saw where. So now we know that Ham's a thug. I don't know if we know what we have, like, a term for Breeze yet. We might have gotten it back in chapter 2 when Kelsier and Doxson met, like, on the walls of the city,
and they were kind of
referencing everybody.
Right. They definitely they did bring up Breeze by name,
right,
and Ham, which was, like, I was pretty excited about at the time.
You're right. I remember you being excited
because I knew this scene was going to happen, and
okay,
like I love the intro, and catching it for a second read was really fun to see them mentioned.
Right. Okay. So, someone comes in kind of a older guy, clubs. They're saying that they're going to miss Trap, which was Trap the one that got killed, that like the Lord Ruler killed.
Yeah. If they're talking about Trap, the smoker.
Okay, yeah. So we learn about clubs. He comes in. He's a smoker. So basically, he keeps the rest of the group from being discovered by an Inquisitor. So I kind of think of like smoke and mirrors, like throwing up distractions.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. Smokers are cool. I love that it's like one of the misting types that kind of is all about stealth.
Okay.
How great is that?
That's
Smoke.
awesome.
You absolutely nailed it.
So kind of continue there. They talk a little bit, or they kind of move on and talk about, Twix and other Twix that they've worked with and how she seems to be a little different. And Bree says, "You're not like most crumbs, of course." So crumb, kind of meaning like a lower, like you're like, we're doing the big jobs and we're just leaving these crumbs for you. It's how I took that. As like, you guys are like, which is the most disrespectful thing.
Oh, so disrespectful. It's such a jerk.
Yeah. He's definitely a sassy one.
Oh, he's super sassy. Absolutely. I can't wait for you to listen. I can't wait for you to listen to his voice, because I think the narrator of the audio does it really well.
Okay,
so
cool.
I 10 out of 10 recommend giving it a spin. Yeah, it's awesome, and Ham as well. Like I really love the way they're voiced, and when I read it, I hear them. It's awesome.
Nice. So they realize that this is mostly the group. They're just waiting on Kelsier and Dox, but also Yedin. And so
nice, Yedin, exactly.
So we're waiting on them, and just kind of some more talk about kind of the group, and finally Kelsier and Doxon walk in, and Vin's thinking like this isn't a very big group, and she didn't know if this was like a meeting of maybe just representatives of like almost like factions or specialized groups of like, oh, okay, like, maybe Breeze and Ham are of two different like, cliques or clans or whatever, and they just like they're the head people.
Right.
So that's kind of what she's thinking about. We find out that Kelsier's brother Marsh is not coming to the meeting. And he's like, oh, he'll join us eventually, which makes me feel like the meeting with him did not go well, if it happened at all. And so it's interesting here. We get a little tidbit about some timeline stuff. Kelsier's Breeze is saying like, hey, you've been keeping this job from us for 8 months. And so they've clearly either ran into him or had word from him 8 months ago about a job to be looking forward to or to be preparing for. And so Kelsier smiles, and we figure out that Yedin, which I think we already knew this based in chapter 2, but that he's going to be the financier of the of this operation. He's funding the entire thing, and we learn a little bit about him. So Yedin is, Vin doesn't know who he is. Thinks he's kind of a Skaw worker, maybe works in the textile mills or the forges. Doesn't know who he is, but then we learn, oh, he's the leader of the Skaw rebellion, and he's clearly a very important person. And he does not like Allomancers. He doesn't like Mistings. He doesn't like thieves and thugs.
Right.
And so he's kind of, supposedly come forward to Kelsier to ask for help. And to kind of work together, despite his better judgment, I guess, on like thieves and thugs. So we learn here that like there's kind of like in the underworld, there's basically either your thieves and thugs or the rebels. Like that's who's resisting, I guess, or who's acting against the Lord Ruler in the Final Empire. So they're discussing, like what did he hire us for? Why did the Skaw Rebellion hire us for something, and he just kind of jumps right into it and says, we're going to help Yelden overthrow the final empire. Everyone's silent. Everyone's like, do we hear you right? Like,
what?
Maybe he's not saying what we think he's saying.
What?
And so it just kind of jumps right into it of like, yep, this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to overthrow the empire. And, Kelsier kind of goes into like, the rebellion is never going to gain ground without us. Like they've been trying for, a millennia and have gotten nowhere. And, they need us. Yeah, they need us. And Yeden's all kind of getting all pissy. And he's like, Kelsier says, where are your successes? Where are your victories? And they talk about a massacre here, the massacre of Tujir. And that, that was like 3 centuries ago where 7,000 Ska were killed, 7,000 rebels.
7,000. That's
pretty big number.
Savage.
And, he's saying like, you're not going to get anywhere just raiding the occasional boat or like kidnapping the occasional like official. Like you're not doing it.
Debasing them, absolutely calling them out. Like you're not doing anything. Yeah.
So we've learned that.
You need us.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's Kelsier's. The group's already been paid, and it's 30,000 boxings, half now and then half when Kelsier and his group deliver to Yeden an army. So that's kind of what what Yeden's looking for from them is to like build him an army. We quickly learned that 30,000 is like nothing. They're like, we can't do an operation this big. Like it's barely going to cover our costs. We're not even going to make any money. We're going to need spies. We're going to need safe houses. We're going to need somewhere to train this army. Like this isn't going to work. And so that's when we learn that there's a second part of this. That once Yeden kind of takes over or collapses the empire, that they're going to get into the Lord Ruler's treasury and get a hold of the Lord Ruler's ATM or HM?
ATM. No, you nailed it. ATM. Yes, which should be a new thing.
Right.
I think we haven't had. This is the first mention.
Yes, for sure. And so basically, Kelsier and his group gets half, then they'll turn the rest of it over to Yeden and his group. We learned some stuff here. Vin's heard of this metal before. She's never seen any. It's super rare, only used by noblemen, which makes me feel like it's only used by people that are Mistines or Mistborn. We learned that this, the assumption here is that the Lord Ruler has a ton of this, and he only lets the little bits of it out at extremely high cost. He's controlling the market. It's helps him maintain his rule and kind of fund the final empire. And so interesting. They jump into like, are you sure you want to try something like this so soon after what happened the last time we tried to get into the palace?
Yeah, great. What does that mean?
Well, I can tell you it means that you get sent to the pits of Hathsin would be a good guess.
Yeah.
When you try to get into the palace.
It might be connected. I love it. Yeah.
So, he just gets really detailed in the plan here now, Kelsier, where he talks about, like, we're going to neutralize the garrison, the Luthadel garrison. So now there's no police force in the city, no military. Then we're going to throw the city into chaos. Once it's in chaos, Yeden's going to march his army right into Luthadel, seize the palace, take the Lord Ruler prisoner, and while he's doing that, Kelsier and his group's going to pilfer all the ATM, split up half and half, and like that's kind of basically the overarching plan. And everyone's like, you can't do this. It's super dangerous. Like this doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about?
You're crazy.
And it's just kind of they definitely think he's crazy. And then they talk about how even if the Lord Ruler escapes, like he'll be financially ruined. He won't be able to pay anybody. So, like, the nobility is going to be too weak to react. Like, it's just, he's going to be confused. The Lord Ruler will be confused, and they're not going to be able to mount any kind of defense. Ham asks about something that I don't recognize here, called the Kolos.
Kolos.
K-O-L-O-S-S.
Oh, you have heard it once before.
Okay.
Yeah, I think chapter 1 we did hear about them. Because I was stoked and I was actually shocked that we did. But just I think chapter 1 is what we heard about them.
Okay.
But yeah, so what does Ham think about the Kolos?
So he says that they're creatures and that, like Kelsier, or I should say that. That's incorrect. Kelsier, basically responds and says, like, if he marches those creatures on the capital city, like, it's just going to cause destruction. Like, it's not going to work. So we know that they're creatures, but I guess I don't know of what kind.
But destruction.
Yeah. Big and bad, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, bad. Definitely bad.
And Clubs, who's the angry old guy in the room, he's our smoker. Clubs. He's like, you're forgetting about the Steel Ministry. Yeah. And that the Inquisitors aren't just going to let you throw away their pretty theocracy. So that kind of gets me into like in my mind, a Wheel of Time. Like, you've got maybe the White Cloaks and how there's like kind of this other group that, like, yes, they kind of do fall in line of some of these other rulers, but they're kind of doing their own thing as well.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's kind of how I'm feeling about them right now. But
the Steel Ministry, right?
And Kelsier's just like, yep, we're gonna have to deal with them as well. We're gonna figure this all out. We're smart. We're the best.
Yeah,
we're best in the business. We can do it, guys. I don't have a plan really, but we're gonna do
parts and we can solve it.
And Breeze is like, well, what about the ATM mine? Like, won't he just mine some more? And then we find out that this ATM mine really is actually the pits of Hathsin. And that's why no one knows where it is. And that, when people get sent to the pits, it's really they're being sent there to work in the mines, to mine the ATM. So Kelsier's obviously seen that firsthand. And that's why the Lord Ruler doesn't let anybody leave there dead, so that secret can't get out.
Right.
So, kind of definitely interesting, that tidbit of information.
Oh, I love it. I love good catch. That's a really great catch.
More just kind of people in disbelief at this plan, talking about how crazy it is. They're like, do you... are you sure that this is what you want to do? I wanted to bring this up. So Kelsier talks about Breeze, and he says, no one can sue the crowd like you can. If you're going to raise an army, we'll need your Adlamancers and your powers. Yeah. So this goes, I think, a little bit back to what Vin was saying, where she thought maybe these guys were like heads of like clans or heads of different groups, because if Breeze has multiple Alamancers working for him, or like that, look to him for direction. Like maybe he is some kind of leader amongst a bunch of people, and
explains his power. Being able to convince Vin to, get him a wine right off the bat.
Yeah, and so, again, still more disbelief at what's going on. Still more people being like, what's your plan for this? What's your plan for that? Clubs is like, he's not about it. He storms out. He's like, the Lord Ruler tried to have you killed once. You're not going to be satisfied until he gets the job done. And he, slams the door behind him and storms out. So now we don't know. We're out of a smoker for now.
No more Clubs.
Yedin wants to have Clubs followed and killed because he knows the plan. And Kelsier's like, no, like I wouldn't even invited him in the first place if I knew I couldn't trust him. And then Finn can't believe that you could trust somebody not to betray you. Like she has a big moment here where she's like, this is impossible. Like there's no way this guy's not gonna like get killed. Like they're definitely following him having him followed right now. So again, just some more bantering back and forth, and then they ask like, "Hey, who's this girl? Who's the Twixt?" And they say, "Oh, my brother caught her." Talking about Kelsier's brother here, caught her soothing his emotions, and Ham's like, "Oh, a soother. Like, I guess we could use one of those." And then Kelsier, basically is like, "Nope, she can riot people's emotions as well." And everyone kind of like, "Oh shit!" And that's when everyone in the group discovers that she's another Mistborn. And so it's really the only two that we know of. And Kelsier's only met one other himself that's like amongst the ska.
That's right. That's right. Amongst the ska. Yeah, absolutely.
I love this here. Breeze, in response to Yedin, basically being like, I'm not even sure if Mistborns exist. Breeze is like, you should try to not to talk so much, friend. You sound far less stupid that way, which is just like
such a jerk.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, to the leader of the rebellion. He's a soother, all right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Kelsier then jumps into his probably boldest part of the plan, where he's talking about how he's going to kill the Lord Ruler on top of all of this if he can. And they're like, "Hey, like." They call Ham here, jumps in and is like, "Hey, the Lord Ruler is the sliver of infinity," all caps here. I'm sorry, not all caps, but proper capitalization. Yes. Sliver of infinity. He's a piece of God himself, and that you can't kill him, and that capturing him is probably even going to be impossible. So some very interesting ideas around who this guy is.
Right. This Lord Ruler.
And then we figure out here Kelsier's wife's name, or who I'm assuming is his wife's name, is Mare, M-A-R-E. Mare. Kelsier says, he took Mare from me. He almost took my sanity. This is part of why I basically want to go after him.
Right.
And I'm going to take everything from him, is kind of what Kelsier's saying here.
Revenge.
We then see, hey, down in the pits, I snapped and awakened my elementic powers. Snapped being capitalized here as well. So what does that really mean? Can multiple, like, people who didn't have elementic powers before, can they snap and get them? If it's happening to him, can it happen to others?
Interesting. Yeah, good question.
And so Kelsier then jumps into some folk talk of his own that in the north, there's a legend in the north that there's an 11th metal, and that with that you can kill the Lord Ruler. And he pulls out of his pocket this it's a small object. It's a thin bar of metal, not as wide as Vin's small finger, straight edges, straight sides, silvery white in color. Why has no one heard of this? And Kelsier jumps into saying how, the Lord Ruler suppresses it. He doesn't want people to know about it. And if you know where to look, you can find it. And that Allomantic theory only teaches the 10 metals, 8 basic metals, and then 2 high metals, which I would guess Atium probably is one of these high metals, would just be a guess of mine. And then,
sure, a good guess.
And then that, like, there's this one that's far more powerful than any of the other 10. Kelsier says that this metal's his weakness, the Lord Ruler's weakness, and that he can be killed if an Allomancer is burning it. So we learn that in the north, in a land near the Far Peninsula, a land where people still remember what their old kingdom was called in the days before the Ascension.
Ooh, the Ascension. Wait, yeah, I'm going to call that out. That's a good catch. For a capital A.
Right.
Nice.
And so, And then they're like, okay, Kelsier, how's this work? And Kelsier's like, yeah, I don't know. A lot of
I intend to find out.
That's the theme here of like, hey, we're going to do all these things to help Yedin and the rebels. How are we going to do them? Yeah, guys, we're going to figure that out.
And we're going to figure it out.
I've got this thing that's going to kill this guy. And they're like, oh, cool. How's that work? And he's like, I'm also going to try to figure that out too. Like, clearly just doesn't know anything.
It's great.
So it's pretty funny. So it's just, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And so Vin's thinking like, kill the Lord Ruler. Like he's not someone you can kill, that he's just like this force, just like the winds or the mists exist. Like he just exists and that you can't kill things like that. They're not alive. They just simply are.
Yeah.
And so then we kind of finish out the chapter with her being like, great, I've tied my fucking wagon hitched it up to a madman. And then she kind of jumps back into this new spirit that she has in her, where she's like, but that doesn't matter. Not as long as he's going to teach me more about her like allomancy and her allomantic power. So,
yeah, great.
And then that's it. We're wrapping up chapter 4. She's
committed.
So super long. I feel like recap there, but a lot happened.
A lot happened. I think it's a great chapter. We get to meet some fun new characters, and we learn a lot more about the world. There's a lot of world building that gets done, and I really got me excited.
Yeah, for sure. You've got the smile on your face. I think you're scheming up with some questions here.
Oh, well, what kind of, I think the best questions are like, first, what kind of questions are coming to your mind? Like, what things are you most curious about from all the reveals? I don't want to highlight any out of, risk of signifying one importance over the other, but yeah, what speaks out to you?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He does talk about, like, in preparation for their next meeting, that he wants everybody to kind of think about these ideas of, like, this plan and how we could accomplish some of these big tasks. So it'll be interesting to see what people come up with to kind of put this plan into place. As far as some of the new world building, like, I'm always intrigued with new locations. I haven't gone back to, like, the map to check out, if any of these places that they talked about, like, if I can find them. Like, what's the one? He talks about the peninsula. See if I can find that again.
I don't remember.
Because this is when it was talking about the 11th metal and where to look, and it was up in the north. In a land near the Far Peninsula, where people still remember their old kingdom. And so I'm looking at the map, and I don't see a lot of peninsulas, and definitely none that say Far Peninsula. So let me check. So this is like the more detailed map, and then there's the smaller map.
I know I have a map with more than the other.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, so I don't know exactly where that is. I mean, I know he talked about stuff in the north.
It's the far. It's the super far spot.
Yeah, it's so far it's off the map.
It's so far it's off the map. I think that's the right way to look at it. At least that's how I remember seeing it. It's like, oh, it's the far place.
So, yeah, kind of off the bat, I'm thinking about kind of those places and, are we going to see them? Where's the story going to take us in this world? And, yeah, I mean, just a lot of new information. Some about clearly what some of the Mistines can do and what their titles are in the group and kind of what their roles will be in the future. You've got the muscle, you've got the person in charge of, for lack of a better words, like invisibility or like kind of the smoker.
The smoker,
all these different, yeah. And so all these different things, and just kind of seeing how they're all going to tie together. And, I'm curious as to what the other ones are going to be, what the other medals do. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, because you got 10 medals, right? And two high medals, 8, basic medals.
Well, 11 technically.
And then the 11th, right, exactly. Yeah, this new special medal, which Kelsier appears to have a bar of.
Right.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's a great scene, and it really sets us up for a lot of exciting stuff.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, how are you feeling after rereading Chapter 4?
After rereading Chapter 4, I got really excited to just, to hear Ham and Breeze again and their characters that, this chapter is memorable for me, for Mistborn 1 especially, and being able to, see the formation of this group and kind of the story that unfolds, and it's really it's monumental. So it's a great chapter. I think what I liked the best was just the banter between the different crew members, and the playful way that they would kind of pick on each other, but they seemed like professionals, and they were excited for the job ahead. Just also skeptical of Kelsier.
So skeptical. I felt like there were 5 pages of some information here and there, but it was really just everyone being like, bro, you're crazy. We can't do this.
Exactly. A lot of doubt. Because I think the ask is big, right? It's
it is big.
Make an army, right? We're going to make an army. How are we going to make an army?
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I really, I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm super excited too.
Bart.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I haven't even looked at Chapter 5 or kind of what's coming next, but Well,
we'll have to find out. We'll have to read and find out.
Yeah. I think, this army, if you're marching an army into the city, to me, they're probably already outside of the city, which gets me to, think about all the ska plantation workers, and, especially the ones that we knew from...
earlier. Yeah.
From earlier, yeah.
Exactly.
What was that, Lord Trestine? His plantation, his farm,
his ska. Yeah, right.
So,
all his ska are gone.
Yeah, they're going off to the mountains to hide. And so I would imagine they're going to be marching in. That's probably the get. You're going to try to get them to come in, and especially out in the sticks or out in the countryside, it seems like there's probably more ska than there are regular people or nobility, or so far we've really heard about kind of these levels of nobility, and then ska. And so are there even any other just regular folk, if you've got the slaves and then you've got nobles, who, is it just 100-to-1 ska to nobility ratio? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're onto something. I think it's safe to say we haven't heard about any other kind of class or any, we've heard about some creatures out in the world, but not necessarily compared to nobility and ska.
Right.
Kind of seeing just the duality there.
Yeah. It would be nice to know how Kelsier escaped the pits. And
right.
With
there's a lot of rumors.
With some of the
rumors in the chapter.
Yeah, everyone's got a different story, but I think with some of the snacks we've gotten, where to me, it sounds like some of them could be from Kelsier's perspective, and he's talking about especially in the first one at the prologue, where he's talking about him being the hero of ages, the savior here, was there some divine intervention or something that happened to him in the pits where he had this realization, or was he maybe he did die and then was reborn, almost like the sacrificial kind of event where he had to die first and then come back as this savior. It just it's very interesting how that
didn't
happens.
have his powers before,
right?
But he does now. Yeah,
I'm like, yeah. No, that's a good.
He's got these powers.
Yeah. And what was the term they used there for that?
Snapped? Are you talking about snapped?
Yeah, snapped.
That was the term Kelsier used, yeah.
Yeah.
I snapped down there. And yeah. I really like that as well. I think that's it's something that I definitely remember being in your shoes and like really wanting to know about, and I think that it's a great part about the book is just like the way that you're learning pieces of the story and fleshing out your characters is really well metered, and it's good. I wasn't disappointed.
I think to kind of wrap my portion of this up, I'm just excited to read the next chapter and see what happens.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be a good one.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's when we were, because we had discussed before today, maybe doing like 4 and 5 together. And after reading 4, I texted you and was like, "Yeah, let's just focus on 4. There's a lot to go over."
Yeah, we got a good chunk. No, it's great, man. I love it. And and I think 5 will be a good one as well. I'm looking forward to doing it.
Cool. Nice. Well, any last thoughts?
No, I just wanted to thank all our fans tonight at Shards and Shenanigans, and thank you for coming. It's a real pleasure to have you. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Kyle's mom. And,
thanks to the moms. I did today talk to one friend and was like, "Hey, I'm doing a podcast with my brother-in-law." And he's like, "Oh, no way." And I told him all about the books, and he's like, "I don't really read a lot of fantasy, but maybe I will." And I was like, "Well, why don't you start reading? You'll follow along with us."
Read with us, yeah.
Maybe we'll have him call in.
Oh, I know. We could have some call-ins. Exactly. Yeah. Some guests. We have some questions from the fans.
We're going to the phones now, guys.
Yeah, they're blowing up.
Yeah, they're
lots of flashing lights.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
funny.
It'll be good.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you kind of walking me through this one and going through my recap with me, and we'll super excited to get on to the next one. So I'm probably going to read that tonight, and hopefully we can jump in and talk about it here soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We love you all, and we'll see you at the next one.
See you at the next one. Shards and Shenanigans out.